Nice to meet you guys.
Okay, let's go for, oh, there's a little chat. Okay, so we've got a little chat on the side. I'm not sure if people have or haven't seen the film or have or haven't seen the trailer. We were going to try and play it for you, but it doesn't seem to work super well over Zoom. So we're just going to put the links on the side. And we've also got a giveaway at the end from FatMap. They've got some fun quizzes for a year's subscription. So that'll be sweet. But Nat, you've got a slideshow that you want to share. So do you want to start with that?
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully you guys can still hear Anna and I, or both of us, when we share this. I saw everyone else's presentations and there were slideshows and I got really jealous. So I thought Anna and I should do one as well. Play slideshow. Cool. So welcome everyone. Anna, do you want to get started?
Yeah, sure. So I think Russ just introduced us. I'm not sure. I used to be a competitive skier in slopestyle, and after competing at the 2014 Olympics, I moved to Whistler. I met Ross on my first year here. He took me out to the Tantalus, which was pretty eye-opening. And I started getting more into backcountry skiing, and then started filming as well.
And hi, I'm Nat Segal. I started skiing, both Anna and I started when we were really young, but I took a few years off and actually decided to study art for several years while I was just after high school. And then I went and spent some time in Chamonix when I was taking a year off, and it sort of led me to competing on the Freeride World Tour. And that's sort of what I've been doing for I did it for nearly 6 years. And then I reached a point where I was really over competitions, and Anna and I actually had started talking about wanting to film and create a movie or create something together. And that's kind of where we sort of ended up in around 2015. I was like moving away from competition, and Anna had just competed in the Sochi Olympics. And so we started this conversation about wanting to create a film and not really knowing what to do next. So that's kind of what our talk is about right now, and sort of a bit of a crash course in like how to create your first film, I guess.
Yeah. So for Finding the Line, what it's about is, in a nutshell, risk and fear, and how to balance these with your own goals and reaching your potential. And as we're sisters, there's also like kind of a common theme of us being sisters and quite opposite characters. I sort of reflected on my career as an athlete and realized that I was maybe pushing it a little too much, and every second year I was hurt, like blown concussions, broken bones. And I felt that being injured half the time had really held me back as an athlete. And then on the other side of it, there was Nat, who is more risk averse, and she's like super strong skier, but felt that she didn't push herself enough to really like reach her own potential. So we're like, well, how do you kind of balance risk, and how do you balance fear to make sure that you can achieve your goals, but also, you know, remain healthy enough to be on the snow or to achieve them. And so that's what the film in a nutshell is about.
And so we had this idea, but at the time, the way that Anna just explained it is like very concise, but at the time we had no idea where to start with the story or like what kind of film we wanted to make. At one point it was going to be 10 minutes, the next minute it was going to be an hour. We had advice coming in from everywhere. And so trying to start off was really difficult. And this photo is from one of our first trips in 2015, where we went out with a film crew and a few other friends, and it was like a total disaster because we ended up camping on this weird shoulder in the middle of the Australian backcountry. It was windy, it was horrible, and so at one point, Anna and I were driving home, we had this huge argument about the film, where it was going, and it led us to become more concise and start really talking about what we wanted to do. But like, we just had an idea. And so we didn't know what to do next. You just fake it until you make it. So Anna's going to go on to our first point.
And sort of like, I would say, why did we decide to make a film? As I was saying, Nat and I were both competitive athletes, and our lives were pretty structured around that. You know, you train in the off season in the gym, you get ready for your competitions, you have a competition schedule, and everything's sort of outlined for your whole season. And your whole, I guess, mentality resides around just doing the best you can in those competitions. And then we both found ourselves like, oh, we still want to ski and we still want to do it professionally and we still want to achieve these goals, but we don't have any structure and we don't know how to do it. And we decided we wanted to film, but TGR and MSP didn't come knocking at our door, especially that first year. And we're like, well, screw it, let's just make our own film and make our own opportunities work for us. And so that's what we dove into. We had a lot to learn, not just in skiing, but also in filmmaking, which is a lot harder than I think both of us expected. But we also wanted to make a film that didn't just show the polished side of being an athlete and being an action sports film, I guess, model, whatever you want to call it, film athlete. We wanted to show more of like the raw and real life emotion behind it and the unpolished behind the scenes raw footage, which is really easy to say on paper, but it's really hard to do when you're both the athlete and the producer, because half the time you look shit on camera, you say really dumb things, you have breakdowns all the time and they're really embarrassing, but you have to stick to your theme of being raw and unpolished. So that's what we tried to do. And that's what, that's sort of what we went through in the editing process.
So one of our, like, the next steps we took once we sort of slowly started having an idea was bringing on a director and a filmer, and that was Bjarne. And you see me like flip between the slides. So I've been trying to work out how to use my remote controls, and I've been trying to look at the comments and I can't quite get to them. So I can't see the questions. Anna, can you see any of the questions on the side?
Yeah.
Just because the slideshow, if there's anything we need to talk to.
No questions yet, but if anyone has questions, please type them in the messages and we'll answer them throughout.
So Bjarne Salen joined us as the cinematographer and director, and like I think he was really good in balancing Anna and I out, because Anna and I had a lot of ideas, and you can see even as we're talking, we're really passionate. And like I think between the three of us, we started creating a structure and started moving forward with the film. But we had so much to learn. So Anna and I are going to go through a few of the main points of things that we really had to learn.
So I'd say number one is how to raise money or capital. It's one of the biggest struggles of filmmakers, like whether it's a documentary, whether they're seasoned filmmakers or they're first timers, is just getting the capital behind it. And I guess we also didn't realize how much a film was going to cost, but we started off with a Kickstarter, which raised about $30,000 Canadian. And then we went to our endemic sponsors and tried to get as many of the brands we had close relationships on board. And then after that, we tried to go after non-endemic sponsors. We thought, big banks and like big law firms, and they'll want to be involved. That's a lot harder than it sounds as well. But yeah, the money-making thing to back a film is super, super hard. And we learned maybe a small amount of it, but I think we both have a lot more to learn on that aspect.
I think some of the like biggest lessons were that we both realized in retrospect were like to not give up, that things will fall into place, but it takes a little bit of time. And that sort of, Nico, sort of taking the time to really think about what your film is about and who might be interested in telling that story with you is really important. And we found that going to sort of sponsors we already had really good relationships with, and sort of media partners we had relationships with, really helped with us, because they already knew our story and they really wanted to get behind it. But it took time, and like it's like anything. I think Evan Stevens just did a thing about talking about like you want to be good at bodybuilding, you have to put the time and the effort in to get there. And that was like raising capital. It's not going to happen overnight. So
and then the next thing we learned is the importance of a strong story, especially if you're making a documentary. Firstly, we learned that you have to make the audience care about the characters involved at the start of the film, which is really important, because then they care what happens to them throughout. And then learning how to put together a really strong story arc, a beginning, a middle and an end with like the flux lines in between. So yeah, planning the good narrative and the story. With a documentary, you can't 100% plan it, and a lot of that has to happen in post-production. But, if you want people to find the story interesting, you have to have a really strong story behind it, not just rad skiing or rad action.
And I think one thing that we realized while we were making the film was how important the in-between moments were, and that they were the things that we really wanted to focus on. Like our aim was to show fear and risk, and so showing the moments like before dropping into a line or the conversations in between became like critical, and like the ups and downs. And we were really lucky because our cameraman was always filming and like filming the things that we didn't want people to see. And I think if I took one thing away from that was that being open and like vulnerable, if you're either the character or if you're filming people or trying to make a movie, that's like the part that I found the most interesting when I watched other people's films now, and I realized how important it was.
Yeah, always have the camera rolling.
Yeah.
Teamwork was another thing. I think with any big project that's going to be in there, whether it's like a big business or a sporting achievement. But I think it was only after working with Nat and Anna we became like pretty close and understood each other's like idiosyncrasies throughout the time. It was only after going on to other film crews and realizing how strong that relationship was and how much more efficient it makes filming when you can like pretty much communicate by just looking and saying a couple words. So teamwork and understanding what like that everyone's on the same page and everyone's after the same goals.
Mm-hmm. And I think like knowing that the people you're working with are going to put in as much effort as you are, and that was like never a question. I felt with working with our small team and also with everyone we interviewed and went skiing with, like everyone was so willing to put the effort in, which was pretty amazing. And I've had a few times when I've worked with people and realized how special that was, like Anna just said.
And then I'm going to skip over to post-production for filmmaking and how important that is. It was definitely something that we underestimated in terms of cost and mental energy. Post-production, which is, editing, color correcting, sound mixing, online graphics, that's where all the magic happens. That's where the story comes together. You could have like the raddest footage in the world, and if you don't have a really good storyteller as an editor, like it's all just going to get thrown in the garbage pretty much. And yeah, we didn't even know what sound mixing was or what like sound, like color correction. We didn't know how expensive that was. And so luckily we had a really awesome executive producer who had begun as our mentor through the film and then came on as EP. So she kind of directed us through all of that and taught us a lot. But yeah, I remember she said to us as well, like, oh, you finished the production side of it. Like your job's just beginning. You've got another 2 years behind you to get this thing out there. And we're like, what are you talking about? But she was right. So when you finish the film, just think that you have 2 times that amount of energy that you're going to have to keep putting into it.
Did you want to talk about any of the filming in the backcountry span, or are we moving on to something else?
Yeah, we could go over that quickly. And then filming in the backcountry, you take it away.
Oh yeah, okay. So filming in the backcountry, it's really funny looking back now, like nearly 5 or 4 years ago, what I was doing and like the way that I was planning on taking a film crew into the backcountry. I just started planning a new trip and we're having like a full emergency evacuation list and like all this extra safety gear. But honestly, the first time we went out, we hadn't in-reach. And I think that was maybe our second trip. So like thinking about when you're going into the backcountry, you're looking at even more stuff because when you're in production, you're spending a lot of time waiting around. You have to really think about who's going to be on top of the line or who's going to be around you in like safety scenarios, what equipment you have and information you have. And so I feel like now that I've started filming in the backcountry, having to think so much more than just, oh, it's me and 2 of my crew members. And so like having an inReach, really planning out routes on Gaia and looking at routes on FatMap, like I think in the navigation section they were talking about a lot of that. And having extra safety gear and the knowledge and the experience and also the faith in your other crew members that if you hit that line and do it wrong, someone's going to be looking after you and there's an evacuation plan. Because that's something that I didn't necessarily think about when we started filming. Anna, Jim,
yeah, no, I think, a safety plan is like crucial, and we definitely didn't start thinking about that until towards the end of the production of the film. So that was a bit of a mistake. If anyone has any questions, you can chuck them in the side and we'll answer. But we also, we've got a little list like of what we did right and what we did wrong. I think let's start with what we did right. But yeah, as I said, feel free to be putting things in the message, the questions. We found good mentors, like filmmaking and backcountry skiing mentors, one of which became our executive producer. So we just sort of like, we reached out to people that we knew made films, skiing films, documentary films, like narrative films. We just reached out to everyone and asked, hey, could we have a chat with you over Skype or over the phone and kind of meet up for coffee and pick your brain? And then we really bonded with a couple of them. And then Fran Derham, who had kind of been on a similar trajectory of us, but more in the surfing world, came on as our EP. So that was really awesome. Nat?
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking at the Q&A questions.
Okay, I can go on. I'll do a couple more. So
yeah,
like we mentioned before, we chose to work with people and businesses that we had prior relationships with first, just because, you know, like for brands that we approached for sponsorships, we approached our sponsors first, and for people that we approached for mentors, it was people that we sort of knew first, and then that often led us down different paths, but at least we had like sort of a common ground to start with. We found a great cameraman and director, Bjarne Salen, who's now filming with Cody Townsend. He's just like an amazing mountain athlete, multi-talented with all different cameras. He could drone, he could use his big FS7 Sony camera, and he also was felt like he was just a really balanced person. He never pushed us into scenarios that we weren't comfortable with. He always like kept a mellow outlook and was like, even though he's younger than us, he was like wise beyond his years. So I think that was picking the person that was going to work best with us for the most part was really important.
Yeah. And there's one other point I just, there's a few questions that I'm going to try and address. And one of them was sort of like one of ours, what did we do wrong? There's a few questions about budgeting and profit margins. So I'm going to try and answer them as best I can. So Carl, you've asked what the profit margin was, and Neil, you've asked us what the total cost of the film was. So the total film, the total cost changed a few times, but I'm going to say like around 250,000, which in comparison to other films, other film production companies from Europe, I know sometimes their films are up to 400,000 euros for a sort of 45-minute sort of ski pond style film. I feel like our budget was lower for several reasons. Firstly, because we started the film without having the full capital behind it, which meant that we didn't have a great budget generally. And now looking at budgets I'm making, we sort of like, everyone, including ourselves, were kind of, well, Anna and I never paid ourselves for the film. Everyone was kind of underpaid to a certain degree. And like, we ended up getting into post-production without any budget for music, and we really had to work hard. So the profit margins were zero. We went into the red for the film, and we still kind of are there.
We almost broke even.
And that was thanks to distribution. And so one of our biggest mistakes was going and starting the film without a proper budget. And so I really recommend that for people to sort of really think about before they start something like this. And then I think the other questions have kind of gone. So yeah, profit margin.
Profit margins. We almost broke even, like maybe give or take $1,000.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And totally. And then another question, someone's asked what the highest altitude of the mountain we climbed. I don't know off the top of my head. It's just around 4,000 meters. It's the Aiguille d'Argentière. And so Anna climbed that and did the Waikua. And I think she's actually going to share a link of that from FatMap.
Yeah, we're going to put a few FatMap links in the side of, we've got two classics in Chamonix, the Waikua and Cosmic Kua, and then also two routes that we did in the BC section, Ursus Minus, that Nat climbed and skied with Greg Hill, and then just a fun area in the Callahan that we filmed a lot. We actually filmed pretty much our whole crash section there. But yeah, an awesome like fun mini golf pillow field in the Callahan. It's a long ski tour in, but it's totally worth it. So we're going to share that from FatMap as well.
Maybe you could do that now while we're,
okay, you keep talking.
Yeah, and so just to finish the answer to the highest altitude, I think the Aiguille d'Argentière would have been the highest, but you do access those lines from Grand Monte, so you're not climbing from Valley Bottom. And it was really cool. We skied a line off the back there. If you go on FatMap, there's one other line, the Barbie Koa, which we skied with Bjarne and his brother Morgan and a photographer who were working with Linus Meyer. And it was like one of the most beautiful experiences I've had. Anna, the last question we've got here is, who's a better skier?
Well, I always say Nat, actually. People think I'm going to get mad. I'm like, no way, Nat's a better skier. I would say Nat has like a stronger traditional ski style, like more chargy, more technically correct, like how she holds her body, like more racer style. And I would say I'm better at like more freestyle, kind of playful skiing, like better just from my slopestyle background and mogul background, like better at airs. And I feel like don't take this the wrong way, but I kind of like look at things like more creatively, and Nat looks at things more like stylistically, like how her body sits and that kind of thing. So, which was another reason why it was really fun to work together, because I'm always trying to emulate how Nat skis. I want to have a more chargy, solid style. And then she looks to me, she's like, oh, I wish I could do like the flips and the spins. And so she looks to me for that kind of advice. And together, it works.
Yeah, we push each other. And Anna's like the same with my jumping. Like I think we've improved so much from skiing together. Just like bottom line. And sometimes I go skiing with Anna and I'm like, holy crap, she's slaying. I need to step my game up. How did you choose the lines you wanted to ski? I think like one part about this film that I look back now retrospectively, a lot of it was we had a lot of mentorship from like Bjarne was a mentor, his brother Morgan, who skied with us, was a mentor, Julia Monego, who went skiing with us, was a mentor, Greg Hill was a mentor. Like a lot of the time we were directed to lines through the people we were skiing with. And it was really, I missed out on quite a bit of skiing in Chamonix because I was injured, and Anna went and skied with Julia, and she skied a few lines that I was so jealous about because I'd been like eyeing them up for a year or two. So we sort of were really led into a few things, or like assisted doing some stuff we'd already been thinking about as a result of like mentorship with other skiers. The Barbie Koa, which was from the Grand Monte to Switzerland, was actually an idea that Morgan, Bjarne's brother, had, and it was sort of like a haute route steep variation. So we skied from Chamonix, from the Grand Monte ski lift, up to Aiguille d'Argentière, down the Barbie Koa. We stayed in the cabin de Trient and then skied some Koas down to Switzerland at the end. And that's sort of like the final segment in the film. And it was really cool to do that with Morgan. It was sort of like a brainchild, an idea he'd had for a few years. So we're really lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was family.
No more questions.
We could do, what have we got wrong? What we did wrong with the film, like biggest lessons for more, not like life lessons, but more filmmaking lessons. Not understanding music rights and having to re-edit because of this. We sort of chose these songs that we thought were really rad and like kind of just, we'll find the money later. We'll license them for a year and we'll find the rest of the money later. And then licensing a song for a year versus in perpetuity, which you need if you want to sell the film on. So we sold it to Red Bull and they had to have all the licensing in perpetuity worldwide. Is a lot more expensive. For example, this song that we absolutely loved, that we'd chosen for the end song, that when we premiered the film, it included that song. Mm-hmm. And another song that we had for Chamonix, which was this beautiful French artist, Camille. Combined totaled for in perpetuity for those two songs was going to be something like over 50,000 $50,000 US dollars. And so that would kind of bit us in the ass, and then we had to go and try and find other songs to replace them, and then we had to re-edit, which cost us more money. So music rights are quite complicated, and if you're going to try and use commercial songs, real and not just stock songs that you buy on the internet, like really try and get your head around it. I definitely think investing in a couple really, really good songs is worthwhile, because everyone loves a rad song for a ski movie, but just know what you're getting into.
Totally.
And then, like we said before, not budgeting enough for post-production, and also not starting the film with enough capital. So I think both of us have said if we wanted to do a film again, we'd try and raise at least all the capital up to the end of production, before even starting filming. So that was super stressful.
I have some questions for you, Anna, that have come up on the Q&A.
Okay.
How would you recommend young aspiring female skiers seek out mentors?
Ooh, that's hard, hey?
Yeah.
I think don't limit yourself to female mentors. I think there's definitely there's definitely a good connection that you can find there, but keep yourself open to like guys and girls to mentor you. Don't force it. Like reach out to people, go skiing with them, but try and find someone that you really do connect with. I think one really good thing for mentorship is like the mentor is also learning something from you, from the mentee. There's also programs like there's Mountain Mentors, which is really awesome. But I think it's just finding amongst the group that you ski within the person that you really look up to and think that you can and have a similar point of view, and you're on the same wavelength, and just asking them, hey, can I ski with you more? Can I climb with you more? Can I write music with you more? And not being too afraid to be shut down. And that's another thing, like being afraid for them to be like, yeah, nah. I'd say that's important.
Mm-hmm. I think as well, I used to have this idea of wanting, like, finding a mentor for me was like skiing with maybe the best person somewhere. Like I moved to Chamonix and also moved to Rollerstoke, and sort of like the person who I aspired to be, I thought that they had to be my mentor. And I realized that mentors can come in all shapes and sizes. And sometimes to find a mentor, you might not be going out and doing like the gnarliest line, the line you aspire to do. You might be doing something really boring, but you're learning so much. Or you might be doing something that's not what you expected, but it's still a really cool way to learn. And like Anna and I talked about it a little bit, like you have to put in the time to learn, and it might not be doing what you expect it to be. Does that make sense, Anna? Like,
yeah,
you might want to go be, sorry.
Oh, definitely. No, it makes sense for sure. Next movie theme, Nat, you've got a cool one on Armenia coming up that just got postponed because of COVID. But
yeah, so last week I was meant to leave to go to Armenia with a friend of mine to make a film about using skiing and outdoor sports as a way to sort of travel and explore your history. And it was sort of about Armenia and the mountains there. And we're really excited, and unfortunately we've had to postpone it. But I'm just really interested in like having a storyline that connects people to the mountains and mountain culture. So yeah, that's the one I'm going to be working on next March. Anna's also got a cool one that's sort of upcoming, assuming that we're allowed to start leaving our houses in the next 6 months.
Yeah, it might happen this year. It might happen next year. It was meant to happen last year. But in going to South America with Taylor Godber, who's a local snowboarder. And it's about conscious and how would I say it? Conscious development, I guess. Conscious tourism and development. We'd be going to sort of an unknown, it's not a ski town, it's sort of just a rural town in South America where we've connected with a guide that lives down there full time. And it's about how you share the beautiful places with tourists, and how to create good development that is beneficial to the community but also doesn't westernize the community. So we're hoping to make that into a short film, and Taylor's also going to write an article in Mountain Life about it. So yeah, hopefully sometime soon. We'll see when. We've got another question for Nat. Anna mentioned that you can be a bit more risk averse. What would your one piece of advice be for someone who wants to challenge their skiing but has a tendency to get mentally blocked, then ducks out, stays in their comfort zone, and then wishes they ended up pushing themselves? Oh, that's a good one for Nat.
Okay, that's a good one. I'm like, I think the idea that you're just going to change overnight is kind of ludicrous, but something we also expect of ourselves, and it's something that I'll expect of myself. I think it's really important to set achievable goals and then work towards them with baby steps, and be really proud of the moments when you achieve something towards that goal, even if it's not the goal just yet. And I also think it's really important, we create comfort zones, like I do a lot, because it makes us feel safe. So you don't want to sort of make ourselves feel too unsafe too quickly, but you also don't want to limit yourself. And so like setting yourself not impossible goals, but maybe goals that you can't imagine at that time that you want to sort of work towards are really important. And I'm trying to think of a good example, but like maybe trying to ski something like a couloir that's scary, working towards it might be skiing something steep or something that's a sort of less open slope, so you have to really do short turns, and then start visualizing that and start visualizing yourself doing it on that harder slope. So you're slowly trying to imagine something that you couldn't previously, because I think that that's mental blocks come about because you can't imagine yourself doing it, and then you lock it down and say that's never going to happen ever. And Anna did a lot of visualization when she was at the Olympics, and like I listened to her a lot about that, and I learned a lot about using visualization as a way for me to like achieve and push myself. And I did it a lot in Finding the Line, and like when I first had to do my first backflip, I was just visualizing it over and over again.
So I think we have to wrap it up now, but we do have some, so in the comments, I've posted a fat map link to the Y couloir in Chamonix and also the Cosmic couloir. Have I done Ursus Minor? And then further up is the link for Ursus Minor that Nat skied. So we've got 2 questions, which I'm also going to post on there. Just got to find them really quickly. So the first one is, what is the max gradient of Ursus Minor? You can get this off FatMap. And then the second one is, what is the top altitude of this classic extreme in Chamonix for the Cosmic couloir? So I'm going to post both of those, and whoever answers each one's first is going to get a 1-year subscription to FatMap. So yeah, you just have to go check it out. And that's the answer. First question. Got to make sure I don't post the answer. And this is the second question. And then yeah, I'll post it again, but I've also posted a link to the film if anyone's interested in watching it. It's free on Red Bull TV, so it's 52 minutes. This is the final version. The first version that we premiered with all the rad songs was 58 minutes, and this one is the 52-minute version. So I hope you enjoy, and thanks for having us. Nico says hi. He's been sleeping in my lap. Hello.
If you have any other questions for Anna or I, we're both on Instagram. We both have emails. You can find us on our websites. Just reach out, whether it's about making a film, whether it's about Anna's cute new dog, or like skiing, or whatever you like.
Or skiing us next season.
Oh my God.
You'll be old enough to ski by then.
Yeah, so thanks so much for having us, and I just want to say, like, awesome job, Ross. This is a really cool program. I'm really enjoying watching everything, so thanks for organizing this.
Thanks for having us, Ross. Sorry if we went a few minutes overboard, but yeah, everyone's rad. Stay sane and healthy, and see you outside when we're allowed outside more.
Bye.
Bye.